Well, welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Matt. I'm the founder of Q4Launch. We're excited you guys are along for the ride as we dive into 5 strategies to increase last-minute bookings. I know many of you are in the throes of peak season, so we've tried to time today's webinar at a time that'd be good for you to step away from it all and invest in your learning that will hopefully help you make the most out of this season that you find yourself in, which is very different in a lot of ways than how we operate the rest of the year. I know some of you may not be in peak season. Maybe you're attending today's webinar because you're trying to learn and prepare for peak season. Maybe you're in a ski destination or a destination, it's in the Caribbean, the Bahamas, somewhere that may not be in peak right now. But we're excited you guys are with us as well. I'll give you a little bit of brief background on us before we dive into our topic. Q4Launch was founded in 2008 as a local Charleston agency. We're headquartered in Charleston, South Carolina. And then about 5 years ago, we completely reinvented ourselves and focused exclusively into the accommodation side of the travel industry. So we work exclusively with lodging establishments, bed and breakfast, boutique hotels, vacation rentals, and the people trying to attract those customers. So also with DMOs and CVBs in certain destinations to help them attract travelers to their destination. And that's what we specialize in all day, every day. And many of the things we're going to share today come from things we're actually doing with our customers. So real strategies, real lessons that we use with a lot of our customers. So excited to share those with you. We do our webinar series about bi-monthly or twice a month throughout the year to try to share that information with the industry and give back some of the data that we're learning from the work that we're doing, representing about 150 different customers and destinations from Singapore to Maui. So really exciting stuff, exciting times. And we're honored to be recognized by Inc. magazine last year as one of the 1,000 fastest growing companies in America through their Inc. 5000 list, and the fastest growing advertising marketing agency that focuses exclusively in the travel industry. So lots of great stuff happening. Very excited and honored by many of those things and by the customers that let us do what we do and we love working with on a regular basis. So with that, let's dive in and get to the core of what we're talking about, not waste any time as we move throughout. So what makes a traveler take a last minute trip? We're going to talk a little bit about kind of setting this up before we dive into our 5 strategies. I don't want to go straight into the X's and O's that do this. We really need to understand our consumer, which is a good lesson overall. Before we start executing marketing, we need to understand who we are, our brand, our value proposition, our pricing, but also who are we trying to attract? Who's our ideal target customer? What's that persona look like? That's one of the things we really work to do with our customers, is understand those things, because I think it's easy to forget about those things. You've been in your business for so long doing what you do, you forget what it's like to not know what you know about your business, about your destination, about your offering. You have that curse of knowledge. You forget what it's like to not know what you know. So I want to back this up a little bit and let's talk about the traveler and what motivates them to take this kind of trip. Breaking news or events definitely can be a motivator. Breaking news and events, different things, but can kind of be tied together. I was talking with a revenue manager in the Charleston area yesterday about last August in Charleston, which if anybody remembers, the culmination of the full solar eclipse path was in Charleston, South Carolina last August. So as far as the U.S. goes, it culminated here, and we had probably the best August as a city we've ever had because of that. Now, this August we're not going to have that, but those types of things, and you couldn't take a last-minute trip for the eclipse because everything was booked out, but those are the types of things we're looking for. And again, not necessarily eclipses that are, once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, but a musician announces a concert or those types of things that are going to motivate somebody to take a last-minute trip. A great or unexpected opportunity, aka a deal, can motivate somebody to take a last-minute trip. Now, we're going to talk about deals today, but we also don't want you to pigeonhole yourself there. I think that's a mistake that a lot of marketers make, is they pigeonhole themselves from a marketing perspective around deals when they shouldn't. A desire for spontaneity. There's just something romantic about spontaneity. Some people love it, some people hate it. But there's undeniably something romantic about the idea of taking a spontaneous trip. So feeding into that from a marketing message, encouraging people to be spontaneous can be a great opportunity. Unusual weather, unusually hot or unusually cool can definitely motivate somebody. It's hot in summer in Charleston, but it's unusually hot right now, which would motivate someone to go somewhere other than Charleston. I.e., if you live here, you would be motivated to leave here because of the extreme weather. AKA, I am motivated to leave right now to go to the mountains for the weekend, but it's not going to happen. But those types of things, and understanding that, and understanding the drive markets around you, where it's unusually hot or unusually cool. Maybe unusually cool is a good thing as well, because it's a great time to come. For Charleston, if we had unusually cool weather, we would want to market that message, because summer is a slower time typically for downtown Charleston because of how hot it is. So understanding the role weather plays. And that's actually an important thing all year round, that unusual weather phenomenon. And many of these things, honestly, apply all year round. They're not just peak season things. It's really what makes you make a last-minute trip. And then a delayed booking they had already planned. So maybe I've been planning to go to the mountains for months. I just haven't made my accommodations yet, and I'm going to book my accommodations to the last minute for whatever reason. We see this happen less in peak season because things are more likely to be booked up, so people are less likely to delay their booking behavior, but you still see it sometimes, and there's opportunity to capture those people. And as we think about revenue management, those people should actually be paying a premium for delaying and booking at the last minute, not getting a reduced rate for delaying and booking at the last minute. It's hard to have the vibrato to do that, but that's very much the airlines who basically invented dynamic pricing and revenue management. That's what they do. You pay a premium for that. The closer a property is or a flight is to being booked up, the higher the price goes. So as time goes by and the flights get more and more full, more and more booked, and or that flight's ahead of pace, for example, pace reports being a big part of it, the consumer is going to pay more for the same thing. So that delayed booking they had already planned, hard to capture that specific audience, but definitely a reason that a traveler would take a last-minute trip. So if we want to know what gets them to do it, we also have to understand what stops them from doing it. In reality, 99% of people who come to your website every day decide not to book with you. That's a shocking statistic, one you've heard from us before if you've been on, and it's when you think about it, it's actually not news, but 99% of people decide not to book with you in a given day. So this conversation of what prevents people from taking last-minute trips is a really important conversation. And we can't know everything. There's so many personal factors going on in people's lives, but some of the big ones, logistics, right? I mean, I'd just rather stay home because it's easier to stay home and then plan a trip, go away. I have 2 kids under 3 and just traveled for an extensive period of time for the first time since our second one was born. And let me tell you, logistics with 2 kids, significantly harder than logistics with 1. My family's fortunate enough to be able to travel with me quite a bit, but adding that second one to the mix has made that significantly more complicated. And I know many of you that are family friendly, and we have many customers that aren't as well, that are adult only, and that's great. Many of you that are family friendly have thought about those things and taken those things into account. But how well are you marketing that? How well are you telling that story about making logistics easier, whether that's logistics for the family-friendly traveler or whether that's some other type of logistics, planning your experience, whatever it is. What are you messaging to make that easier? Costs, cost is definitely something which gets into the ability to be spontaneous and being able to say, yeah, let's do this because it's an opportunity. That hones in a little bit more on deals or opportunities to do those things, but cost can definitely prevent someone from taking the last-minute trip. And travel time. I'm not going to jump on a flight and fly to Tahiti for the weekend. It's not going to happen. But I might drive to North Carolina mountains, which are a 3.5-hour drive from Charleston. No big deal. I can make that up and back and have 2 nights there and feel like I had a getaway. Or I might drive an hour away and camp somewhere. Probably not as hot as it is, but but maybe it's not as hot where you are. So that travel time, think about who is going to take that trip. The people are not going to fly to you last minute, right? Because that goes back into costs being prohibitive and logistics being prohibitive. But for that last minute, that shorter trip, and that's an important thing as well. Last minute trips are usually shorter than trips planned in advance, kind of obvious, but travel time is an important consideration. And travel time, we're going to talk about more in depth later, but should significantly change your marketing strategy when you're trying to target these consumers. So let's hone in on some personas here. Let's talk about the types of travelers that are most likely to take last-minute trips and really hone in on who that is. First, travelers with existing experiences in your destination or with your property, aka past guests. Well, let's think about that for a minute. Let's think about the things I just said stop people from taking trips: logistics, cost, travel time, and then think about the traveler with an existing experience. If I've been to your destination before, if I've been to your property before, many of the unknowns I have, many of the questions I have: what are we going to do? Where are we going to stay? What are we going to eat? What are all, what, all these things that would stop me from going aren't issues for me. I know where I'm going to stay. I know where I'm going to eat. I know my favorite things to do. I know what I need to pack. I know all these things because I've been there before. I have an existing experience. And that existing experience hopefully motivates me to want to come back again, but it also makes it easier for me to come back again. So this group of past guests is a tremendous opportunity to market last minute trips too. And we're going to talk about some ways to do that. Couples with no kids. I just kind of told you my story about traveling with two little girls under 3. And let me tell you, it was much, much easier when it was my wife and I, or my wife and I and 1 kid. But couples with no kids, definitely easier to travel in that situation. That doesn't mean retired people. Millennials are waiting longer and longer to have kids. So there are a lot of people in that out of college, 22 years old to 40, really. 40 is not millennials anymore, but to 40 years old with no kids that have delayed having kids. And of course, there's a lot of people in every age group that decided not to have kids as well. So a lot of people with flexible schedules, especially in the summer. A lot of employers in today's employment culture tend to be a little more flexible in the summer with people's schedules. And people that do have kids, it's easier for them to travel because they're not having to pull the kids out of school or whatever else. Small groups of friends, girlfriends, guys trips, mixed gender trips, friend trips, couple trips, like 2 couples going together. Small group of friends, really easy to pull a couple friends together and make a last minute trip. If you were with us for the Millennial Marketing Panel we did a couple months ago now, that was one of the things that came up, this idea that on Wednesday, an email would go out around a group of friends that have a common interest and then say, hey, let's go here this weekend and do activity X, like whatever their common interest is. And they try to rally the troops kind of at the last minute to take this last minute trip. So really honing in on those people and what makes them get excited about taking those trips. Drive markets. We talked about that. I talked about, going to North Carolina mountains, that 3.5 hour drive from Charleston. We define that drive market as really 2 to 4 hours. Of course, anybody within 4 hours could be defined as a drive market. But people typically, if they get within that 2 hour radius, they tend to not think of it as much as vacation. Not always, we see a lot of people market staycations, and definitely some of the resorts in our community will market staycations to the locals. That's great. Definitely an opportunity to do that, but less likely, at least from what we've seen, less successful than some other campaigns can be. But the benefit, that drive time, super, super short. My wife and I just drove 10 minutes actually away to spend one night to celebrate our 10-year anniversary. So not saying it doesn't happen. For us specifically, we needed that. With a 5-month-old, we didn't want to be too far away, but 10 minutes was far enough to feel like we were a world away. Retired people, this is always somebody that can take a last-minute trip, regardless of what type of season it is. And as you're thinking about these different personas, your messaging, your photography, all of that is going to be different, thinking about who you're trying to attract and how to reach that customer. All right, so we're moving quick today. We're going to dive into strategy number 1. One of the things I did not mention at the top of the hour that I usually do is that a recording of today's webinar will be available, and we're going to use the chat panel for questions. So if you have questions as we're moving throughout our conversation, I know I'm going fast, hit the chat panel with those, and we'll follow up with you at the end of our time together to answer those questions. So strategy number 1, create a compelling incentive and reason to visit. Notice I didn't say give them a bunch of money off, right? I said create a compelling incentive and reason to visit, meaning it does not have to be a discount to be a compelling incentive. So best available upgrades. It's kind of a lottery system that you get to play and figure out we're going to put you in the best suite we have available at the time that you book. So book early, book now, which goes against the last minute idea a little bit, but putting that message out there and saying, hey, we have availability for this coming date range. Call us to book. The rate is X, but we're going to put you in our best available room for a savings of up to whatever. That may take a consumer that can only afford $200 a night and give them the opportunity to have the experience of a $400 a night suite. Or they maybe only can afford a one-bedroom golf course view condo, but maybe they get upgraded to a one-bedroom ocean view condo because of that type of special. People like to get that sense of value, right? That's what we're trying to create. We're creating that value above what they paid. So we're not doing that with discounting, although you could perceive it as a discount because of the upgrade that's there, but you're really just, that upgrade shouldn't, depending on how your room structure is and what's associated with those rooms or units, cost you more to service the unit. So generally speaking, but best available upgrades can be great. Value-added items, tickets, tours, food, wine, things that have a higher perceived value than they cost you is what we're after here. So if it's a $30 bottle of wine that costs you $6 wholesale from your distributor or whatever, like value-added items, or if they're tickets to a company that you push business to all the time, so they comp you a few tickets every month, being able to give those type of items away. Or maybe you have to buy the tickets, I don't know, but being able to add the value to that package to get it to be more compelling. And of course, discounts, right? I mean, discounts always work. Like, people want to stay away from them. We try to keep people away from them, but flat out, discounts always work. There's no question about it. When you do that, depending on if it's in peak season, of course, but even in shoulder season, if you're doing that, we would recommend advertising that rate as a discount on your peak season rate. So it makes the perceived discount even larger. So maybe you're in shoulder season and your rate is $250 for that unit that night, but your peak season rate is $350. We would recommend advertising that discount off the peak season rate, regardless of what time of year that you're in, and it makes that perceived discount even larger than it is. A lot of people will actually, and I don't know that I would recommend this because I don't love this pricing strategy, but some people will take that even to the more extreme, and they will advertise their shoulder season rate as a discount on their peak season rate. So they'll just say, hey, our price is $250 on discount from $350, knowing that's always what their shoulder season rate is. You need to make your own decision on that. For me, that gets a little bit outside of what I like to do from a marketing perspective or I'm comfortable with, but a lot of people use that type of pricing strategy. And then make sure you're messaging that throughout your marketing channel. So all of the different channels you have set up from a marketing perspective, you need to have those things in place. Make sure that it's not just in one channel, because you have an opportunity to reach consumers in whatever medium they want to interact with you in, whatever channel they want to interact with you in. And when I'm talking about channels, I'm talking about different marketing channels. So that'd be social media, email marketing, your website, AdWords campaigns if you have those set up. Like, there's lots of different marketing channels to get your message out to consumers in. So make sure that you're leveraging those different channels as you're creating this compelling incentive and reason to visit. Strategy number 2, use boosted posts to reach your drive markets. And this doesn't just have to be boosted posts. You can do it with other things as well. But Facebook gives you a great opportunity, because of location, to specifically target people in what we would just determine as a drive market. So you know what those feeder markets are for your destination, but being able to use a boosted post from social media to put your message out there to people you know are geographically qualified to do business with you. And then, of course, you can add other qualification or criteria to filter on for these people as well. But being able to understand what my drive market is and then boost that post out. So make sure you have a very compelling social media post as you're doing that with a compelling offer, but then boosting that post out to that group can definitely work really, really well to fill some of those last minute vacancies, especially if any holes in your calendar. You know, maybe it's a cancellation, maybe if it's just like a little random hole between bookings you're trying to fill that might be hard to fill otherwise. Getting that message out to people can be a great opportunity to fill in those holes, which can drive significant margin for you in this peak season. So as you're doing that and you're working towards these things, you're creating that compelling incentive, you're working on that boosted post, make sure you're creating a compelling social media post with a great image. That image is going to be what initially draws them in social media. Make sure you also have a great headline to catch their attention. So that image will grab them, but then that copy is going to be what converts them. Image gets the attention, copy will convert them. So use a great headline to get their attention, rare opportunity, something along those lines. We would recommend split testing different images. So don't just launch an ad with one image and say, well, I hope this works. Facebook and other mediums have made it very easy to split test different images within an ad group to figure out which one actually works the best for you. And then we talked about boosting that post to the drive market, and you can test different audiences with this as well, and then use a promo code or make it call-in only. Opportunities to do that really comes down to tracking. Like using a promo code can help track the offer, and the opportunity to do call-in only, which we don't recommend this, but for people that are very adamant about tracking, or maybe you have a dated property management system that doesn't let you do promo codes, or there may be another reason, we don't recommend this specifically because people don't want to call anymore. At the pace people are moving, they're at work, they're doing these things on their lunch break, whatever the reason, people don't want to call anymore like people used to. So you really, hands down, if at all possible, need to make this available as an online bookable thing. If it's call-in only, it will significantly hurt your bookings on these things. There are some things I need to do, some transactions I need to make, purchases I need to make that I know I have to call the company to make, and I've need to make those purchases for weeks, but they're not priority, so I haven't done it. Whereas if I can buy it online, it's so much easier, and I can just do it. I can just go straight to it and get it done. It's just so much simpler. So make it simple for your guests. They want to book online. Make it easy for them to book online, and they'll reward you with bookings. We had a question in the chat panel on what are boosted posts. I wanted to address that. Boosted posts are the opportunity to create a post in social media. Facebook was the example we used, and then boost that post. So pay to put that post in front of people based off the audience criteria that you set up. You can create custom audiences. You can use audiences Facebook gives you. Lots of options there. Although I think there's going to be less options in the future, or maybe there's already are some less options because of the whole Facebook ad debacle, but we won't get into that right now. But that's what boosted posts are, the ability to pay to put a social media post in front of a particular audience is kind of the basics of it. Strategy number 3, use AdWords to target mobile users day of. So this is going to work probably better for the hotels and B&Bs on today's call than for the vacation rentals on today's call. I know many of our vacation rental customers won't even take same-day bookings. But with hotels and B&Bs, same-day bookings are definitely the norm. But if that's a big thing to you, you need to put some effort into that, creating a stay tonight page or a walk-in special, something you can update quickly and easily. So making sure, first of all, you have a great website and that it can be updated quickly and easily. But then go ahead and create this page. So maybe you're just tweaking some things as opposed to having to do a whole thing around it, where if it's 2 o'clock on Thursday and I have something open for the weekend, to create a page and find an image and write the copy probably is too much for me to do at 2 o'clock on a Thursday. But if I already have that page set up, I already have my AdWords campaign set up, I already have my boosted posts created, and then all I'm doing is going in and launching those things, launching the ad campaigns, launching the boosted posts, launching the pages. It definitely is simpler. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But you can see in the screenshot here, it's an example. I just Googled Charleston hotels, and there's an ad from booking.com, and they specifically, because I searched it on a mobile device, served up in their ad, book for tonight, book for tomorrow. So they realize if someone is searching on a mobile device and they're searching in my city, right? So I'm searching in Charleston from my mobile phone, chances are this person is in market looking for a hotel. That's different than if someone is in North Carolina searching for Charleston hotels on their mobile phone, right? If someone's in North Carolina searching for Charleston hotels on their mobile phone, they're a lot less likely to actually be looking for tonight. Maybe they are. Maybe they're on the road driving and they're looking for tonight. But if someone's on the mobile phone and geographically in my market, that's an indicator that they are looking for something tonight, tomorrow, very, very soon. So I need to treat that person differently. And you can set all of your targeting up to be able to do that. And then beauty of this is this type of campaign, you can turn those ads on and off using scheduling within AdWords, or you can do that manually. So maybe you find yourself with an unexpected opening because of a cancellation or something along those lines. You can go in, turn those ads on, let them run until you get that booked, or maybe let them run for the day and then turn it off. You can turn ads on and off within AdWords at any point you want to. You could let an ad run for an hour if you wanted. So lots of options to be able to do that. So this isn't a set it and forget it type of thing. So many people make mistakes by just setting it and forgetting it with their AdWords strategy. But great opportunities to be able to try to drive kind of some of those last minute bookings using a strategy like this. Strategy number 4, use email marketing to get your message out. So we talked about the importance of using all of our channels. We talked about the importance of past guests and that they're a lot more likely to book with you than people that have never stayed with you before. A guest that's booked with you before has the experience, a lot of those unknowns, a lot of those fears, a lot of the things that would stop them from booking have already been overcome. So we're much further down the road with that person. So great audience to get our last minute message out to. You can also, if you're trying to build that list, you can send it to your entire database, but you can also run past booking segments. So I want to talk about that for a minute. So if you want to just focus maybe on people that have come in the summer or people that have booked with you at a certain time, there's tons of ways you could segment your list. Not saying you should, like there's a lot of reasons I would argue you shouldn't segment that list. You should send that last minute offer out to everybody you know, because for all you know, they're going to forward it on to a friend or whatever else. Now, that again, you can't take what I say and apply it to any specific scenario, so I'm kind of giving you both sides of that argument. But also, you can include suppression lists. So this can be really important as well. If you're putting a last minute special out, pretty much everybody has like on those specials, this is only available for new reservations, yada, yada, yada. But you still get that call. You still get that upset guest who's like, well, I've already booked and now I'm upset because I could have got it cheaper. And it's like, well, no, you probably couldn't have, because if you'd waited, that what you booked probably wouldn't have been available, and there's lots of other reasons, but the guest doesn't understand that. So how do we overcome that, right? How do we not have that difficult conversation with that guest? And that's what we do with a suppression list. So if I'm going to run a discounted promotion for this coming weekend, I could run a list of all of my guests that I've already got booked for this weekend, get a list of those people, and then load that into my email marketing software and use that as a suppression list, meaning if I'm going to send this email campaign to everybody in my list unless they're also on this suppression list, which helps us not put messaging out there in front of people that we don't want to put messaging in front of. Helps us not put messaging out in front of people that are already booked with us for those dates and may have paid more. Lots of ways you can use suppression lists effectively, but that's the most common one that we see. It does take more time. Doesn't usually cost more from the software perspective, but it just takes more time, and time is money, so it costs more in that way to use that type of strategy. These guests are also more likely to spend money in your other profit centers. So if you're the type of business that has multiple profit centers, restaurants, bars, tours, spas, i.e. you have more way to make money off of a guest than just your accommodations, these people are more likely to spend money in those other profit centers. So that's great. And they're more likely to engage with you if you've been doing email marketing regularly and been building your list. So that's two big focuses we would say here. Not saying if you haven't done it regularly, you can't use this strategy, but we have found it is more successful with people that do email marketing on a regular basis and that have been investing in building their list over a period of time. They will have a higher ROI on this type of strategy, greater return on that investment. And then we'd also say use this strategy sparingly. If you're sending out an email campaign every single week that says, guess what, we have availability this weekend, it's on sale, then you will train consumers to expect that. We don't want to train consumers to expect that from us, because then we stop getting bookings in advance and we actually hurt ourselves, and you go into kind of this vicious cycle of having to run this type of campaign. So we want to use this sparingly in specific opportunities where we need to pick up this business. But great opportunities come from it being able to pick that up. So lots of ways to do that. You can see the messaging here in this email campaign we sent out. Find a last minute deal. So linking in to that. One of the great parts about having them click on a link in your email campaign is it generates a lead for you, essentially. Yes, that actually would go through to a lead generation form. But besides that, you can then run a list on everybody that clicked on that See Our Last Minute Deals button. And now I know all of these email addresses that clicked on it are interested in taking a last minute vacation, or at least they were interested enough to click on the last minute deals button. And if I've got an in-house reservation team, then I'm going to give that list to my reservation team and say, hey, follow up with these people. Either email them, call them, both. These are leads interested in taking a last-minute trip. Here's the offer we sent out. Call them and try to book this for them. Great opportunity to use your central reservations office if you have one, or your internal reservation team, or maybe you outsource reservations, giving that list to them. If you've got a call center team, great opportunity to be able to pursue those leads a little bit more aggressively than probably most of you do right now, or maybe have thought about before. And then we're going to kind of feature a couple things here. One, we're going to feature some properties, feature some opportunities to check out houses or rooms. People love that stuff. They love looking at houses. They love looking at beautiful rooms or accommodations. So whether they're going to take a trip or not, they just like to look at pretty pictures. And then some things to do, so that's definitely part of that screenshot there as well. Some things to do, why you need to visit Professor Hacker's Lost Treasure Golf. Maybe I'm the only one on the call today who's like a mini golf junkie, and that's admitting some stuff about myself that I'm fully come to grasp with. But as an entrepreneur, one of my dreams is to own a miniature golf course someday. So you can make fun of me for that next time you see me at a conference, but that's on the list of the bucket list. But giving them something to do there, giving them a reason to come, right? And it doesn't have to be Lost Treasure Golf. Like, that's probably not the best example of some reason to come. We would much rather have something more compelling, like a Garth Brooks concert, or some other more compelling thing. Thanks, Mark, for that in the chat panel. We can definitely go 50-50 on the golf course, or miniature golf course, I should say. I can't afford a real golf course. Probably can't afford a miniature golf course either, but that's a different issue. But something as compelling as possible to be able to get people to come, like tip them over the edge. Okay, so the weather's hot, but I don't know if I want to drive to the North Carolina mountains. Oh, but there's zip lining and there's whitewater kayaking, and okay, now I'm sold. Like, now you got me up off the couch. Now you got me to pack up the pack and play and drive the family to North Carolina mountains, because that's enough. Like, I'm excited about that. So it goes beyond just the offer and into, why do I need to come? Like, what's that experience going to be? Help me start living that experience a little bit in your destination. Can definitely move people that direction and get them to take that booking, get them to be excited about it. So strategy number 5, we've touched on this a little bit. Strategy number 5, use revenue management well. So that's really, really important. And notice we said well, because we see a lot of people not do it right or not do it well, but use revenue management well. Don't be predictable with your availability. So that kind of goes back to what I said just a minute ago. But if every weekend you're sending out a last minute special, you're getting predictable in your availability. As a consumer, I realize they always have availability on the weekend. So actually, I start questioning a couple things. One, I start questioning the quality of your product. But 2, I realize, and you train me, that I don't have to book in advance. Both of those are problems. So don't be predictable in your revenue management strategy with your availability or anything else. Understand supply and demand, and that in peak season, demand is higher, but supply in your market relatively stays the same. We see more fluctuations in supply than we've ever seen before because of the Airbnb phenomenon, where people will put their house up for rent just for periods of time and then pull it back off the market for other periods. So there is more fluctuation in supply than there used to be, but your supply, for the most part, is pretty fixed. So understanding that, and that demand is higher, your last minute rates in high demand periods should be increasing, not decreasing. So that's really important. Last minute rates in high demand periods should be increasing, not decreasing. Last minute rates in low demand periods may decrease. And what you're looking at there is supply beyond yourself, supply in your market as a whole. If you have the last available room in your market and it's a high demand weekend, that room is worth a fortune, right? We don't want to sell that room for too little. If it's the last room, last unit available in a high demand season, somebody should pay a lot for that. If there's a lot of places available, there's a lot of supply in the marketplace, then rates are typically going to go down. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. It comes back to supply and demand. It always comes back to supply and demand with the economics of pricing strategy, but hopefully that's helpful. And we just kind of hit on that as well with that last bullet there. Always remember, demand drives rate. Demand drives rate. And where demand and supply intersect, you have the perfect equilibrium price. Now, we rarely find ourselves at perfection, and I'm a firm believer that perfection is the enemy, but we always have to remember the correlation between supply and demand, and where they meet, that creates rate. Yes, there are other factors that drive rate, but that is the primary one that's going to drive rate: demand for your market and the supply of inventory for that market. All right, so here's a few more thoughts. Your last, and I've kind of touched on this a little bit, but your last minute strategy shouldn't be last minute. So I know that's probably hard to say, like when you're in the middle of what is peak season for most of our customers and many of you on today's call, but your last minute strategy shouldn't be last minute. Meaning if it's Thursday at 2 o'clock and you need to book out a couple units for this weekend, it's too late to spin up an entire last minute booking strategy or an entire last minute booking campaign. These are things you plan for and execute over a period of time. Not saying don't try. I'm just saying you probably don't have time because you're so busy doing other things in peak season, you probably don't have time. So you need to build your digital assets in advance. You need to have the website content set up, make sure that that is in place. You need to make sure that you've selected photos and copy and you've split tested some of those things. And all that's created. So you're not sitting there staring at a blank screen wondering what to write about. You need to have email campaigns set up. You need to have lists built. You need to have templates built. You could even have a last minute email campaign saved in your software that you just deploy, and maybe you just change some copy in it. Like you're changing some copy, you're changing some dates, you're changing the incentive, you're changing the things that are going on that are going to make somebody want to come, but you've created all that. AdWords campaigns can be super time consuming to set up. So you've created all those things when you weren't crazy busy, so that when you need them, you've got them created. So lots of different ways, but build your digital assets in advance so that your last minute strategy is not last minute. And then I said this at the beginning, but don't default to price cutting. Your last minute marketing strategy doesn't need to be price cutting. We do not want to get in a race to the bottom with your competitors. That is not our goal. Let's look for ways we can add value other than price cutting. I would say price cutting is our last resort, not our first resort. So let's try to add value. Let's try to create excitement around an event, something else, something to get people there. And then as a last resort, being able to resort to price cutting if demand is low and there's still a lot of supply in the market. Understand the goals you're trying to accomplish as well. Are you trying to get to 100% occupancy? Like we have customers that is a goal for their peak season. I want to be 100% occupancy. That is more important to me than necessarily the rate I get or whatever else. So understand your goals. We have other customers that say, I never want to be at 100% occupancy. I want to manage my revenue. I want to manage my rates to 80% occupancy, and let's keep driving rate to keep it there because running at 100% is too stressful on my staff, my cleaning crews, everything else. You have to understand where your business falls on that spectrum and understand your goals of what you're trying to accomplish. And then know your variable costs for the booking you're targeting. I can't tell you how important enough this is. You need to know what it costs you to host a guest. You need to know what it costs you to turn a unit, to turn a room, to serve breakfast, to check somebody in. You need to know the cost of a stay, because if you know that, it will help you make other decisions. So understanding your variable costs associated with booking a stay. Booking a guest costs you money. So you need to understand that and the implications of it. You also need to understand that ancillary revenue that comes with that. So if you have those other profit centers we talked about earlier, restaurants, tours, spas, bars, those other revenue sources, you need to understand the ancillary revenue coming from those as a part of your variable cost equation to be able to say, okay, how bad do I need this booking? What am I willing to give away from an increased value or to discount if I need to get this person in the door? Understanding that it costs you other opportunity if you don't. You know, and when I think about examples of this, I think about Las Vegas. Las Vegas knows the value of getting a guest into Vegas. The destination knows that, but every hotel knows that. Hotel and casino knows that as well, right? They're in the casino business, but they have to have a place for people to sleep. That's really what it comes down to. So if you're in that place where you have other profit centers, you need to factor that in. I might sell a room cheaper than I would like to. I might sell a room for at cost or lower than cost because I know getting that person in my door, they're going to spend money in my restaurant. They're going to gamble in my casino. In the Vegas example, we don't actually have any customers with casinos, I don't think, but or they're going to spend money here or whatever. So know those things, and it really helps you make other pricing decisions based on how you're going to make money off of that guest. And the most effective strategy is an integrated strategy. I can't drive this home enough. You hear this from us a lot because we're an integrated marketing agency. We do these things and believe these things work better with the orchestra effect, that they are working better together. But it's so true. I talked about if you're developing a last minute strategy, getting that out across all your channels. And that comes down to an integrated strategy, but making sure as you're working on your marketing strategy, it's all integrated together, that you have a consistent brand message across everything, consistent branding, consistent imaging, consistent copy, everything consistent across your mediums, and making sure everything is aligned to do that. The most effective way to do that is to have one agency partner managing all of those things for you. And that's what we do for our customers, be that one agency partner that manages all those different elements. So our customers make one call, I need this to get done, and then we get it done across all their channels for them. It makes it so much easier for them, especially in a time like peak season, to focus on running their business, not running around chasing down their email marketing databases and making sure that their graphic designer gets that created or whatever else. So much going on with all that. And I do see a message in the chat panel that we lost audio. Hopefully everybody else has that. Hopefully that's an isolated issue. I'm guessing we may have lost audio forever. Oh, there we go. We get this audio back, everybody. All right. Well, we're going to keep moving. Hopefully everybody's got the audio back if we lost a couple people there. So one of the things that we try to do to help our customers, not our customers, but people following our webinar series, is to help them take next steps. So today we have a last minute marketing consultation. One of our team members will connect with you and help take some of the things you've learned here today, unpack it, and help you create an action plan for your marketing strategy. So if that's something you want, a last minute marketing consultation to take a look at your assets together and help you get some ideas that are unique to you, we're going to be launching a poll here so that you can simply click yes, please get in touch. And we'll follow up with you to get in touch about that last minute marketing consultation and look at some of your assets and help share some strategies. Also, great opportunity to answer one-on-one questions for you. If you don't want that, simply click no thank you, and we won't follow up with you regarding it. It makes it super easy for everybody to figure out what's going on. So if you want that last minute marketing consultation, simply click yes, please get in touch on the screen, and our team will follow up with you. If you don't, simply click no thank you. We do need to get 70% of people who are on today's webinar to actually vote in that. I know it's a big ask to either click yes or no, but if you are here and you're still awake, hopefully I've kept it entertaining enough to keep everybody awake for the last 45 minutes. Maybe you didn't step away and have to answer the phone, answer guest issues or anything else. If we get about 70% of people voted in that would be awesome. It's just about a 10-15 minute call where we can help you figure out how to take those next steps with your marketing strategy. As we're waiting on those to come in and make sure everybody has voted, those that have stepped away from their computers are back, go ahead and pop your questions in the chat panel. We're going to get to Q&A here in just a minute. We're 44 minutes into our time together, so we're going to get to Q&A as well. So if you have questions, go ahead and pop those in the chat panel. If you haven't had the chance to vote yet, on our last minute consultation, or not vote, I guess, but request a last minute consultation, simply click yes or no if that's something that you're interested in, and we can follow up with you on that. All right, with that, let's go ahead and get to Q&A. If anybody has questions, please go ahead and pop those in the chat panel. I do see a message there. Sorry, I hit no, but meant yes. Please email me. If that's you, we will definitely follow up with you via email. So if that's anybody else, if you clicked no but meant to click yes, just drop your email address in the chat panel. Not everyone will see that. You can just send it to the organizer, and that will get it to me, and then we will make sure that we follow up with you. All right, any questions in our chat panel? Questions in our chat panel. Let's get that poll closed. Get any questions that we have answered. Can you share a couple examples of people that do a great job with email marketing? Good question. I would say you can follow any of our customers. I think they do a great job with email marketing. I honestly don't follow anybody else that does email marketing on their own. Like, I don't follow other people and try to watch what they're doing or anything like that. So obviously I see a ton of the email that our customers are sending out. So a few of the ones that would come to mind for me, In Spa, Cedar Falls, great property doing that we do a lot of work for them, and they do a beautiful job with that. For some reason, they're the only ones coming top of mind for me right now. The Topside Inn in Boothbay Harbor, great one to follow. Topside Inn in Boothbay Harbor, again, great person to follow there. Glenella Springs in the North Georgia mountains, a great property to follow as well. Trying to think of some others that might be good people to follow. So hopefully that's helpful. So there's 3 examples for you. Feel free to email me if you want more. For some reason, I'm spacing some names there. You can also follow Select Registry. We do email marketing for them, and they're on today's call and said we've done a good job. So I'll share that with you. Not to brag on us too much on today's webinar, but we've got their stamp of approval. Thanks, Mark, for that. So you can follow Select Registry's email as well and see what we're doing there, and hopefully can motivate you with some ideas at selectregistry.com and check out their email. So let's see, any other questions? I think we addressed a few questions that were in here throughout. I think I've actually touched on every question that's in here right now. So if you have a question I haven't touched on, please get that in the chat panel. If that is everything, we will go ahead and wrap things up for today. Stay tuned for another email from us about our next webinar coming up in about 2 weeks. If you got the newsletter we sent out at the beginning of the month, that had all of our webinars for the month of July in it as well, so you can look for that newsletter. If you didn't get our newsletter but would like to start getting our newsletter, feel free to go to our website. You can register for that there at Q4Launch.com. You can also follow us at Facebook.com/Q4Launch. And if today's webinar was helpful for you and you like the content, we would love if you leave us a 5-star review on Google. If you'll go to our Google My Business page and leave us a 5-star review with what you loved about today's webinar, we would greatly appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in. We will get this posted on our YouTube channel and get it out to everybody that subscribed for today's webinar. Thanks, everybody, and have a great rest of your day, and good luck filling those last-minute bookings for your properties.